last call. We will premeditatedly begin today's episode outside of the Amazonia. We're in the Pantanal, the marshlands. We will be accompanied by Nilton and his men on this journey through this incredible part of the planet, and we invite you to do so as well. So if you care to join us, you'll hear stories about Pantanero horses, of men and women and animals, about deep nature here in the Pantanal. Shall we, Nilton? Let's go. Come on. We would like to present to you a close relative of the Amazonia that has captivated us throughout this photogenic Mother Nature series, the Pantanal, that emancipated child of the Great River, the largest wetlands in the world, a lacustrine system, independent of the one that is formed by the Amazon River, which extends south, and which has inherited a great amount of its ecological wealth. It is a salt marsh territory as large as Holland, Switzerland, Portugal, and Belgium, all in one. 210,000 kilometers of luxury and fantasy for the lovers of unaltered nature. Its name may confuse us. It's not really a marsh, but rather a large plain only 100 meters above sea level, subjected to periods of inundation and floods that are clearly seasonal. The Pantanal that we will travel through is the one that corresponds to Brazil. Nonetheless, we cannot forget the importance that Paraguay and Bolivia have for the whole, neighboring countries that have received a large part of the biological inheritance of this wild Eden of nature. "656 bird species live in the Pantanal, more than North America's entire population. Besides that, many of the latter travel to this Brazilian paradise during the winter migrations, establishing spectacular breeding colonies that would be the joy of any ornithologist. In the same watering hole, we can find cabezas secas, spoonbills, and herons of 1,000 colors and intertwined roots, living side by side in this last refuge created by two large rivers, the Cuiabá and, above all, the Paraguay River. All the living beings have some relation here to the water and its landscapes. In contrast to the Amazonia, the Pantanal is the kingdom of wide horizons, of large salt marshes where the vegetation spreads out, permitting our eyes to see everything without limitations. This is a floodplain which reminds us of the Llano Venezolano, or Venezuelan plain, another South American giant. The Orinoco, with its immense dimensions. An enriching and generous nature, which the planet chose to clone as if it were someone who chose to repeat something that came out very well. The fact is that this ecosystem is a complete success. The kingdom of the waterlands at everyone's disposal and before our eyes. Visit the Pantanal if you can. It will be an unforgettable experience, and you'll come away with a flooded heart. Millions of animals and plants live here in peace with all, with a sense of solidarity. Some will peek out from your screens. They will enter your homes without causing a fuss, without dirtying anything, without invading your refrigerators. Don't worry. It's as if they were well-bred ambassadors of an exotic diplomatic corps. They are the thriving Pantanal, privileged kin to the extense Amazonia. The Tuyuyuyuis, peaceful banners. For many, these long-legged birds are the symbol of the Pantanal. They're not lacking in traits, because they're almost 1.5 meters tall and 2 meters 80 centimeters wide. It is Brazil's largest flying bird, also called the Jabiru. It belongs to the stork family and the African marabous, and like them, it is admired by the people it shares country and sky with. The Tuyuyuis are magnificent fishermen, fishing here and there without exhausting the stock, and without cheating with hooks. They use only their beaks, powerful 1/2 meter long daggers, which cannot be escaped, no matter what the size of their prey. They crush the fish with their beaks before swallowing them, finishing them off while still in the water to avoid problems when swallowing. These birds have no teeth. With their beaks, they have to capture, cook, and swallow all in one action. Even so, the slippery fish scales sometimes make them fail. The breeding season has just ended, but we can still visit their mansion. Neither the anarchic composition of their necks, equally dyed red and black here and there, nor do their nests go unnoticed. With a basin diameter of 2 meters, this architectural accumulation of dry wood is a true work of art which can weigh several hundred kilos. Here they bring an average of 3 chicks a year into the world. Just like the storks, the Tuyuyuis make a clacking sound, using their beaks as if they were castanets, with which they communicate over large distances. They are master flyers and can travel up to 75 kilometers a day, taking good advantage of the warm air currents that surround the Pantanal. The Tuyuyuis are rare birds that find in the Brazilian Pantanal their greatest refuge. Only 12 nests are known of in Central America, a scarce population that barely reaches 200 individuals. In countries such as Mexico, Suriname, French Guiana, and Venezuela, its mythical outline is practically an exceptional ornithological event. With the melancholy sound of the horn caller, man opens his way through Tuyuyui territory. Milton is the foreman of this group of cowboys, and the hoarse melody of his ox horn marks the pace for all, beasts and humans. 15,000 head of cattle are the treasure to be custodied, and 12 farmhands his company and his help in this task. These men are the Pantaneiros, the Brazilian cowboys best prepared to survive in this untamed land and scorching sun. No one can separate the cattle on horseback like they can. They don't have stuntmen like John Wayne. Today is apartación day, a task that is done with lassos and consists in separating the mamando, the calves, from the caducando, the adult steer. They spend their lives on horseback and have made their profession a way of life. Vocation and devotion under an open sky. Everyone works for this hacienda called Bahia Don Bosco, a cattle farm that is 1 century old and has 78,000 hectares of land. A place in the world where man and nature give each other a sincere and affectionate handshake every day. One has to start the day with energy. They will return it to the cows, but for the moment, their breakfast comes from them. A good steak makes them strong. They're going to need it because today's work is not easy. They have to herd 700 horses that were grazing freely out in the fields. They have to be brought back to the hacienda. The Pantaneiros call this herd of runaway horses tropa, or troops, and they have to be brought under control without harm, neither for them nor for the horses. A delicate and dangerous operation. This mare knows this and tries to calm her young filly down. Its motherly instinct is limited by a wire fence. If the filly gets frightened, it could break its fragile legs, and so it must be rescued immediately. It had no second thoughts and has found the path to calm. For its dear filly and for itself. There are also adopted parents in this land of frightened and untamed horses. In this case, it is a human being who avoids a sure fracture with delicate care. It's not easy to untangle a frightened filly. The possibilities of receiving a kick are very high. Crossing the boundaries between freedom and captivity, this is not a voluntary behavior for this wild herd of horses. That's why, almost newborn, they must learn who is the boss here. The sooner they learn the lesson, the better. And today is a good day to teach them, now that they are still as obedient as puppies. The ferocity of these horses fills their owners with pride, even if it does complicate things for them. The troop that grazes in the enormous territory of this hacienda is periodically gathered to control their health, to select the best specimens that will be used for crossing, to make them fully understand the great Pantaneta truth. Man is king here, and all animals must pay him tribute. The Pantanedo riders are horsemen, centaurs that ride their steers barefoot. We know that their horses originally came from the Iberian Peninsula, but we don't know when. Also, before these were introduced, the Spanish and Portuguese breed, there already existed a primitive horse, the Equus pantanensis, as many fossil remains testify to. These horses are animals that are so close to these men that even their names exude familiarity. These three, for example, tocadisco, record player, radio, or radio, and bolapié, instep. But these are not the only athletes on these plains. On four legs, other mammals trot through the Pantanal. A creature that has still not been tamed by man, the rare and shy Pantanal deer. It wasn't easy capturing these images of total freedom. But that doesn't matter if they are right there in front of your eyes. This is one of the rarest deer species in the world, adapted to life in the marshes as few have been able to do, and in danger of extinction like many others. Man has not been able to saddle it as he has with horses, but he has cruelly hunted it down. Its legs are as black as mud. This way, the piranha won't bite them when they graze in the sea full of white masiega, their favorite food. Only the male of the species have horns, and both sexes have an impressive pair of radars that enable them to hear the steps of a jaguar 1 kilometer away. A few specimens can weigh up to 150 kilograms. They have just one animal per birth, after a long 12 months of gestation. Biology and beauty for an animal that is desired by many palates. But no palate has such large and sharp teeth as those of the jacare. They even show out through their upper jaws. This marsh crocodile can reach up to 2.5 meters long, nothing if compared to the 7 meters of their Asian or Australian family members. A recent study has calculated the Brazilian marsh population. 30 million specimens, not a bad number. There are 40 jacares for every human being that inhabits the Pantanal. That means that there are 150 specimens per square kilometer. In spite of this, very few attack people or deer in these marshes. They like fish. That immense biomass that we never see, but maintains everything in its place in this Jurassic constellation. The murderous air about it is just that, an air. The Pantanal jacare is a good neighbor, and the only thing it does is fill with its existence the empty spots left by other living beings in this ecosystem full of opportunities. Can you imagine what the period of the dinosaurs must have been like? The Pantanal is one of the virgin areas on the planet, where animals such as the jacare amass the biological memory of remote times. Looking at these images, some self-criticism is called for. How small we are, and what a pain in the neck we can be. Even the cows in this flooded land know that this reptile with a mean face is not as dangerous as man's imagination has set it up to be. The first European travelers who ventured into this area also told stories about giant rats. And they were undoubtedly referring to the capybaras, who are not precisely rats, although they are rodents of an unsettling size, so unsettling that they are the largest in the world, weighing 50 kilograms and perfectly adapted to life on land as well as in the water. In Venezuela, they are known as chihuires, and in other South American countries as carpinchos. At any rate, and regional denominations aside, this is a powerful and unmistakable mammal. Its hooves have membranes between the toes, permitting it to swim perfectly, and its bite is disproportionate. The capybara is an unusual rodent that looks enormous to us, but not as enormous as was its ancestor, the Notohydrochoerus. It was similar, but in the Pliocene it reached a length of almost 2 meters. That is, a rodent as big as a rhinoceros, to whom these plains surely seemed very small. The capybaras are very sociable, and just one male dominates family groups of up to 20 individuals. They make love at night, like everybody else does. Bathed in moonlight, these capybaras live their mating period in groups. The dominating male marks the love path through which the receptive females will pass. The sexual encounters are tender and fleeting, an exchange of energy that will culminate after 4 months of pregnancy in the birth of a litter of up to 8 pups. The fruit of a passionate and single night of marshy sex, with spectators included. Capybaras are herbivorous and feed from the same graze as the cows. They can defy any predator when in group formation, including the jaguar, and with luck can live a good 15 years, the average longevity recorded by the mastozoologists who study them. When they get old, they begin to separate themselves from the group, and if they feel that death is near, they will permanently move away from the group and face it alone. This is how we found this old female capybara on the verge of becoming a part of the food chain. It died while taking its last bath, and now its funeral is the banquet for other inhabitants of the river. Jacares and piranhas will put its corpse to good use. Nothing is wasted in the Pantanal, and this old capybara resuscitates by feeding other animals, as in a Tibetan ritual. All this energy cannot be destroyed in such a perfect ecosystem. It simply transforms itself by way of the digestive system of the carnivorous fauna. The bones are gone in half an hour. The smaller species of piranha take care of the ribs, and the larger ones, the extremities and the head. But all this has just begun, and the appetite of this school of black piranha has been activated. They don't always attack, only when it's worthwhile, and it looks like today it is. One capybara is fine, but it's not enough for these fish that have the appetite of a lion. Surely there's something more around there to eat. Man is at the height of the ecological pyramid, but not just any man. Today, fate is in the hands of Ivan and Palmito. They ate the capybara, and now they will be eaten. That's how things are. Greed got the better of them. This morning's fishing is in itself a master class in natural history, the theory and practice of ecological balance. These piranha will taste today more than ever of capybara, but the broth will be delicious and will magnify Ivan and Palmito's sexuality, so they tell us. Something we don't think is very recommendable in this hacienda, because there are only 2 women and they're both married. Anyway, they know what they're doing. The jacares also take advantage of the situation. There's something for everybody in turbulent waters. Although it may not seem like it, the piranhas also win out. Their overpopulation needs losses, and between man and reptiles, this natural elimination is guaranteed. Its fierce bite is just as effective on land, so the hook has to be taken out of its mouth very carefully. No one should consider themselves absolute winners. Palmito turns quiet and very serious. A hungry jacare is no joking matter. Let's keep our distances, brother. The landscape and its inhabitants become one. Some die so that others can continue living. A rule that obeys natural cycles, cycles which our species should not take lightly. To obtain proteins, the inhabitants of the Great Pantanal must sometimes turn to incredible beings such as this one, a large piranha. A truly beautiful piranha, which I handle by its gills, not as harmless as it may seem because it was caught a few minutes ago and is still going strong. Strong enough for me to show you with my Pantanera knife, but it still has some important teeth there, in the upper and lower jaw as well. It's an important Pantanal predator, and strong enough to bite this knife and prove that it is still alive and kicking. There are not only animal proteins here in the Pantanal, there are also, as we can see, dangerous fish. The bovine is the animal group that man best handles. Man is owing to it and therefore takes good care of it. Without hurrying, but without dallying, they have the cows pass into the yard through this sort of bullpen, called a tronco here. To make them go in, they manipulate these trap doors, the coretos, and have them move in one by one without any possibility of going back. Today is Roundup Day, and the calves also have to be branded with the Hacienda seal. This task full of action, reflexes, bull handling, and tumbles is called divisar by the Pantaneiros. Up until last night, these steer were roaming around freely like the capybaras or the deer. And today, they will not have a hand laid on them without showing their anger. This is a challenge for true cowboys. They're not office workers, and they enjoy their own particular party. Apart from the rush of adrenaline, before nightfall, they'll have branded 50 calves. Look at the effect the piranha broth has on young Ivan. Teamwork. That's the secret that makes this group of men function so well. These men live far away from any city during sometimes a 6-month period, and during the rainy season, they can only leave here by plane. Camaraderie, besides being a human virtue, is a guarantee of a job well done in Bahia Don Bosco. The individual is important in the Pantaneira society, but much more important is knowing how to live in community. Currently, only 2% of the Pantanal cows are really native animals. Their breed is lost in the tunnel of time. They arrived to the Pantanal from Portugal 3 centuries ago. They are used in this hacienda as domestic animals. Pulling this cart, they remind us of some cattle breeds from the northeastern part of the Iberian Peninsula, a relic that sends a chill down our spine when observed on the other side of the ocean. A breed of cattle that is extinguished in our world, and in turn is alive and haughty here. Another reason for establishing a current of understanding between the Iberian farmland and the rural Brazilian world. Magic in Bahia Don Bosco. Nilton is the foreman. He has been working on this hacienda for the past 29 years, and after having conveniently sharpened his knife on the strop, right before our eyes, he makes a calf leather riding crop which he calls a chicote, a living example of traditional culture which Nilton inherited from his elders. The food specialty that we can identify as having a denomination of origin in the Pantanal is this veal dried outdoors. It's called carne de sol, or sun meat, a form of migratory cuisine thought of for long periods of time without refrigerators. Birds will take care of the fat, but not its robust flavor. The Pantaneros have the same passion for their cow skin as the American Indians had for their buffalo skins. Perhaps that is why they gave us this Indian image, pelts drying in the sun and picked clean by vultures, that will become lassos, bridles, or boots. The trousseau of the wandering cowboy, the one who spends his life breaking the horizon. And that is what they are doing today. They are initiating an awaited journey. They will begin to move the retinue, a migrating herd that will wander through the wild of the Pantanal for a number of days, feeding until they finally reach the boarding docks. The animal kingdom is stirred. Man is on the move. Let's get out of the way. We wouldn't want to get caught by a stray bullet. The Pantanal is a breeding region. Its pastures feed the cows that will feed the cities of Rio de Janeiro or Sao Paulo. And that commercial process obliges the cowboys to accompany the steer on horseback through the unaltered territories of the tuiwiwis, the jacarés, the capybaras, or the jaguars. The type of cattle that is bred in the Brazilian Pantanal of the 21st century arrived here by plane during the 1950s. The pioneer who risked introducing them into this paradise sensed that their adjustment to this new ecosystem was going to be very profitable for the Brazilian livestock farmers, and he was right. The Nelore is a type of zebu, originally from the Hindu region of Neloria, and in just 50 years, it has demonstrated its breeding capacity in a most profitable way, as if it had been born here. In spite of their stamina during these journeys, many steers meet the slaughterhouse before their time. This is not the Pampa, though it may look like it, and these Pantaneros are not gauchos, although Martín Fierro seems to have reincarnated in their saddles. And like him, the mate tea also stimulates the taste buds of these cowboys. They left Bahia Don Bosco 1 week ago, and now reach a friendly port with their retinue. They board the cattle on the Paraguay River. They deliver thousands of tons of meat that was transported and bred following the purest tradition to the wholesale provisioners, who will in turn deliver them to the slaughterhouses of Campo Grande or Corumbá. In the opinion of experts, the meat quality of these Pantanero zebus is inferior to that of Argentinian cattle, which originally comes from the British Islands. Nonetheless, this immigrant race has proven to be ideal for breeding in this flooded and wild land, the land they bid farewell to now, on their way to the butcher shops in the larger cities of Brazil. Before that, they will have to pass through industrial slaughterhouses, such as this one in Campo Grande, where 500 cows a day are slaughtered. Here, they're not aware of the fact that European cows have become carnivorous and have gone mad. The cattle that passes through these installations have not been fed with meals of animal origin, using only the richness of the Pantanal pasture for their feeding, a pasture known as capí. The variety of these cornfields is reflected in some names: Mimosinho, white masiega, Mimosinho de talo, catinguele, abroyo rice, red grass, natural vegetables with which the Pantanal cattle has been fed, to in turn feed millions of Brazilians in a wholesome manner. And more frequently, to feed other consumers from the Latin American market, the Mercosur, or the European community, devastated by fast food swindlers. A good steak should taste of rain, or at least that's what it's owed to here in the Pantanal. Each year begins and ends with a rainy season, from October to February, unloading a daily amount of water that could supply a city of 20 million inhabitants with water for a month. As you can imagine, the biorhythms change, and little or big specimens begin a new way of life, nourished by a sky that gives its all. The men know it. The dry season is over, that bright time of the year where clouds disappear and the radiant sun is king. Now the time for raincoats and umbrellas has arrived. A necessary, although uncomfortable phase in the uninterrupted cycles of water. As in the Amazonia, rain is good for the Pantanal. It doesn't lose its high temperatures in spite of the storms, reaching maximums of up to 40 degrees Celsius. Heat and water, a perfect formula for the explosion of animal and plant life, which we will enjoy on a sunny afternoon a few months later. Some insects are only visible during the rainy season. They live hidden beneath our feet the rest of the year. The sex termites have only a few minutes to find a partner and colonize a new piece of land, to found a new nest. Nature has given them wings. Neither the soldier nor the worker termites have such a sophisticated locomotion system. They are the only ones capable of reproducing themselves while flying under the rain, and among thousands of rivals. Their vital objective is complicated. They have to find other termites capable of reproduction in a terrain full of obstacles and under the bombardment of pheromones. Once located, the termite will divide the wings of its new partner and a few seconds later receive the same operation and bury itself after having been fertilized, all before the sun goes down. It's a life or death love marathon. This is the system that termites use for dispersing their genetic patrimony and for widening their domains. Only a few couples will have succeeded in their objective, in this purest example of natural selection. But they will have to do it before falling prey to their worst enemies, the ants. These have also been activated by the rainy season and show no mercy towards the newly coupled termites. The termite's honeymoon is just a nutritional snack under the rain. While this tiny tragedy goes on, man retires. While it rains outside, the kitchen becomes large and indispensable by the cook fire. Doña Señá and Beatriz, mother and daughter, they are the only women in Bahía Don Bosco. They direct this tuned orchestra where the pots and pans shine like well-tuned trombones, and where the cymbals and percussion section follow the beat. We ask them if they don't miss other melodies. Wouldn't you like to go into town to the big city?
We go there to visit when the fairs come around. We go out when we can, but then we come back because our husbands live here. So we make do here.
In one cattle ranch called Gaipón, and while they wait for the daily miracle that Doña Señá and her daughter produce, all the farmhands take advantage of the stormy weather to create filigrees with words and leather. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and morale has to be lifted before eating dinner to avoid the memory of their distant families and being overcome by overwhelming melancholy so many kilometers away. Newton and Cicerón use music as a sort of group therapy and are convinced that with a little forró and lamandón, the two current raves and rhythms, they will cheer the afternoon up for their co-workers. Manecino doesn't wait a second before he starts moving his bones. The minutes, hours, days, and months pass this way, and the men born and raised in the Pantanero culture continue with high morale, doing their job and dreaming about the day their relief shows up. Their lives are hard and real, but other peoples inhabited the Pantanal long before the white man thought to fill it with cows and horses. These cave paintings are not cataloged. Our cameras are the first to film them. Situated on the somber foothill of Morro de Sunsas, they are only one of the many artistic manifestations of this spectacular Latin American Indian nature that was created by the human nation. those that inhabited the Pantanal thousands of years before the European incursion of brave men began, men like Cabeza de Vaca, a Spanish traveler from the beginning of the 16th century. But what is left of the indigenous Pantaneta population? Who is on the other side of the modern-day white society? We have not wanted to say farewell to the Pantanal without checking the indigenous nature of this ancient paradise. We have navigated down just a small part of the 5,000 kilometers through which a boat can easily travel here to find the last living Indian. We have heard of him. His name is Viridiano, and he survives, in spite of his advanced age, hunting jacarés and capybaras. He's alone. His brother, a single man like himself until his dying day, passed away a month ago. He belongs to a generation of great hunters whose women were eliminated by the genocide that has done away with his tribe. His dogs are his companions, and there are no material things here. Viridiano is the last living representative of the Wato tribe, the last remaining being of this ethnic group that enters the third millennium with Parkinson's disease and no grandeur. That grandeur which his tribe had when the Pantanal had not yet been discovered by the pale-faced centaurs to the beat of the whip. We're leaving now. The cattle cannot wait, and neither can the wildlife that is scattered throughout this unknown country that is Brazil. Its legendary strength takes the place of those who believed they had dominated it throughout the different stages of history. The Indians have disappeared, and now the Pantanal and the cattle culture that it has begot will have to face, as will all, the new challenges of the 21st century. We hope with all our hearts that they do so with good fortune. Our next program will once again drink from the mature Amazon, that which meets the sea, abandoning the South American continent to fill the rest of the world with sweet water. We will bid farewell to our program, checking a few of the ecological peculiarities that occur at its mouth, and remembering some of the more intense moments of our work in its jungles and its corners. We will discover that advanced prehistoric civilizations existed in the Amazon. And with this special program, we will pay a sincere tribute to the most impressive river in the world. Would you care to join us? We'll be waiting for you. See you then.